welcome to Wealth Talks, where we talk about solutions, money, and other things that create wealth in your life. John, here we are again behind this mic, and we're excited to have a special guest with us today.
Yes, indeed. We have Dr. Terryl Wolfswinkel with us today. And before I give his formal introduction, I just have to say something a little bit unique. You know, we're both, him and I are both the oldest of 8 children. So we have a special connection there.
Yeah, that's cool.
So Dr. Terryl Wolfswinkel, he graduated from Chiropractic College in 1984. He built a successful practice in Oskaloosa, Iowa. And his practice continues to thrive. He was frustrated by the fact his investments and savings weren't growing like the experts told him they ought to.
Sounds like a familiar story that we hear.
For a lot of people, absolutely. So after a hard lesson from the market crash in 2008, he found you, Dad, Dr. Tom McPhee, and the Perpetual Wealth Code. He realized this was the financial insight he was looking for. So today, his finances are more secure. He has more freedom financially than ever before, and he works with others, helping them to achieve the same type of freedom. So it's a pleasure to have you with us here, Dr. Wolfswinkel. Thanks for joining us here on Wealth Talks.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Dr. McPhee.
Now, Dr. Terrell, you're going to be sharing at the Wealth Summit coming up here in October, which is one of the reasons we wanted to have you on the podcast. Share a little bit of a sneak preview of what's coming up for people here at the Wealth Summit.
Well, I want to tell you guys, I'm so honored that you asked me to share the stage again this year. My topic this year is going to be on opportunities. And most people think that an opportunity, when we're in this kind of a scenario, when we're talking about like at a wealth summit, is only about wealth. That's the only opportunities we're going to talk about are wealth. So we're going to touch on what does an opportunity look like to each individual in the audience. We're going to talk about what they have to do to prepare for opportunities. Mm-hmm. What does it feel like emotionally when they miss an opportunity because they didn't have things set up to take advantage of it?
Okay.
We're going to touch on when can you make the best decisions about an opportunity that is presented to you.
Well, Dr. Terrell, I have to just jump in here and say that in my past, and as I look around at other people, some of the opportunities that I've lost are like what is because they don't look like opportunities. They look like hard work, and they're dressed up in overalls, like Thomas Edison said.
That's correct.
And how do we recognize those opportunities? How do we see that? How do we know it's an opportunity and not just a bunch of other work that we're going to tackle?
I guess sometimes you don't. But
good point.
One of the things that I think opportunities arise in areas that you're familiar with, mm-hmm. that you have some knowledge of, that maybe even you have a little bit of expertise or some background in. Work doesn't become a fear unless you have no idea what that work is that's laying ahead of you.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I like that. That's really important. And, you know, that's kind of like what we encourage people to always do when they talk about investments. If you're going to invest, you better invest in something you know about. Otherwise, you really don't know what your odds are in getting in and the risks that are involved.
It's a gamble. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Then it truly isn't an investment. It becomes like you just said, John. It becomes a gamble.
Yeah.
And you know, if we have, and that's the other thing we're going to talk about. And actually, Dr. Tom, you alluded to it in one of your most recent podcasts. Is that if we don't overextend ourselves, yes, we can take a certain small portion and put it at maybe a little bit more risk than we would otherwise. But we still have to have that foundation to protect us for the future. And then if it takes a little bit more work or takes a little bit more time than what we anticipated, we haven't jeopardized our family's well-being for that year, our financial well-being for the future.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's important. Yeah. But the foundation of guarantees that we like to talk about.
John, you were just reading the other day Nassim Taleb,
Yes.
And the Black Swan.
The author of the Black Swan.
And he was talking about the opportunities, or where has most of the money been made in the last 50 years? How many days did it take to make most of that wealth?
Yeah, half of the gains in the market over the last 50 years were made in 10 days.
In 10 individual days.
10 individual days. It's mind-boggling.
It is.
It is.
So people, it puts a different perspective on people that are trying to gamble in the market or speculate. What is it that they're really chasing after? A lot of people realize that it doesn't make sense to try and time the market.
Yes.
That's correct.
But is that what people are really doing? You have to ask that question. And it becomes, that really ties into our conversation here about opportunity. Will we be ready when one of those 10 days comes along?
Well, Dr. Terryl, I think that's what you're hinting at here is if we conservatively keep our resources, our capital, in a place that's liquid but giving a guaranteed steady growth like participating whole life insurance does, then in our area of expertise, when we see those opportunities based on our knowledge, and we can take advantage of that, right?
That is correct.
Nice.
Is correct. And maybe on a more personal level, and moving away a little bit from investments in the market and things like that, we're going to talk about a little bit about an opportunity that came up for Vicki and I to help out one of our family members, and what happens when you have that capital set aside in a housing market that homes that hit the market and are sold in a day.
Yes.
Where are you going to have the funds to say, I can purchase this place, it looks good, and I've got the money available to me, and I don't have to go to the bank. I don't have to send
Oh, that's cool. I'm looking forward to hear that story already.
Yes.
That's great. So what opportunities, Dr. Terryl, are the easiest to see?
The opportunities that are easiest to see are the ones that are the most familiar to us. Probably the ones, if we're looking, I'll give another example. My father-in-law is very well versed in farm ground.
Okay.
He knows what the dirt looks like. He knows what the dirt smells like. He can see that opportunity when it comes around. And part of the reason he saw opportunities was because he had made acquaintances. He had developed a network of people that he learned to trust that brought him information.
Mm-hmm.
And now he can take that information and start putting it together and going, okay, this is here. This makes sense. We're ready to move. So I think some of the easiest opportunities for us are the ones that we study about. Mm-hmm. They're not just going to jump out in our face and say, oh, here I am.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of what Milton Berle said. If opportunity doesn't knock, build a door.
That's right. So we have to look, and I think we also have to network.
Sure.
Rabbi Lappin talks about that connection with people, and wealth is created when, and opportunities are created when we associate with other people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it has to do a lot with that, and that goes along with developing an approachable attitude as well, because how do you network if you're not approachable? I think, Winston Churchill once said that the pessimist sees a difficulty in every opportunity, mm-hmm. and the optimist sees an opportunity in every difficulty. So, it depends a lot on what we got between our two ears and what we're cultivating, like what you said, what we're reading about, what we're thinking about, what we're watching, who are the people we're hanging out with. If we're hanging out with people that, and this is kind of a crude example, that are doing drug deals on the street, we're going to see an opportunity to deal drugs. If we're going to hanging out with people that are doing opportunities that are making other people's lives better, we're going to see those opportunities.
Good point.
And the other thing, John, you were talking about how the vast majority of the wealth was created in 10 days.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
In 10 different days. So to do that, yes, they're not timing the market, but they're watching on what's going on. And quite often they're investing when everybody, into something when everybody else is running away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So sometimes those opportunities arise if we're going to be a contrarian and are willing to, if we've read and we've done our homework, we know that, for instance, a stock crashes just because of some news, but yet we know that, we'll just say an airline, and they've been hijacked or there's something going wrong, stocks plummet. But people still have to travel. And people are still going to travel. We know that with some certainty that those stocks are going to come back up. I'm not saying I did ever invest in an airline company, but that's just an example that came to mind.
Sure.
It's just keeping our eyes and our ears. And sometimes as we become more proficient at it, we can learn to trust our guts a little bit. There's a book written called Blink, and we know internally when something's right inherently before our brain will really accept the fact that we're right.
Interesting.
So we've just got to kind of learn to listen to those intuitive thoughts instead of pushing them down and say, that's ridiculous, or where did that thought come from? That's crazy. We really need to think about those intuitive flashpoints that happen in our life.
That's correct.
Well, Dr. Terryl, both you and I have been chiropractors. We're still chiropractors, but we kind of made a career switch. And a lot of people ask me, well, don't you miss being a chiropractor? And I think this ties in with the whole thing that we're talking about here, because I don't miss being a chiropractor because I still feel that that's what I'm doing to help people. I haven't turned my back on helping people. And what I tell people is I'm helping generations now instead of individuals one at a time. But, the fact that what we're doing is very similar, even though it's dealing with finances versus people's health. How did you come to say, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
That's an awesome question. Part of it was not something that I set out to do. It kind of found me, somewhat similar to how chiropractic found me just about 40 years ago. I'm going to go back a little bit. When I made the decision to switch careers, if you will, and there's a management group that I belong to, and one of the young docs came up to me and he said, Doc, he says, I really feel bad for you. How are you going to serve people anymore?
Oh, yeah.
And I politely looked up at him and I said, that will never change. I could be a chiropractor and not serve because my heart's not in the right place. But
that's true.
Now I get to serve in a way because there are so many young doctors and young families that are struggling and they don't know who to trust. And some of them have been fed a fairy tale that they're basing their financial future on promises that have no deep foundation, no guarantees. Some of them have been fed a lie, and the only ones that are really getting rich are the ones who are perpetuating the lie. So, by doing what I get to do, because of my relationships and my contacts throughout the profession, now I get to help families build a solid, sustainable, guaranteed financial future that will allow them to take advantage of opportunities that come along for them in their practice. And whenever you can take some of the financial stress out of a people's life, out of their lives, it lifts this huge weight off their shoulders. And when we remove that weight off their shoulders, the way they interact with their patients, the way they interact with their families, the way they get to interact with charitable organizations that they would like to support, but now they actually can. I get to serve in a greater, broader way than I could by staying in my office.
That's cool.
That's cool.
It's an extension of your purpose, not a change, not even a change of purpose. It's an extension of it. That is really true.
It's it's so enjoyable doing what we do. And I remember, giving the report of findings to a patient after we'd done a thorough exam and x-rays, and seeing the lights come on of that patient realizing, oh, this is the solution to my health issues. This is why this is happening. Now I'm going to be able to do this, and this better in my life because this I can see. And it all just made sense to them.
It's planting a seed of hope.
Yes.
It's an opportunity for them.
And now we get to do that with their finances. And it's so enjoyable to hear people say, wow, this makes so much sense. Now those dreams I used to think about can really become realities. I don't have to keep pushing them down. Those opportunities that I've seen as possibilities in the past, I now can make probabilities instead of just, dreaming. And I was talking to a young chiropractor the other day, and he says, Tom, I've heard a lot of people talk about what you're talking about. And it just always seemed like pie in the sky, too good to be true, or just too weird for me to even really give any credibility to it. And, the way that life benefits, and Terryl, you're part of life benefits, the way that we share this with other people, this young doctor was saying, it just makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And it takes, just like with some of our patients who've been fed the concept of what they called health, but actually it was just sick care. It took medication, it took a surgery, it took something like that for them to, quote unquote, regain their health. But in a lot of ways, they were just getting sicker and sicker, but made comfortable while they died.
Yeah. Yes.
But now, even with the people that we talk to, unfortunately, sometimes they have to go through some tough times to realize what an opportunity this is. Mm-hmm. I heard a really neat quote the other day. It said, it takes a genius to make something simple. It takes a fool to make something hard.
Oh, yes.
That's interesting. Interesting twist on that.
Because the fool always wants to add something to it to make themselves look busy. It takes the genius to simplify it down to its central core, mm-hmm. and then go with it.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Terryl, I just want to thank you for taking your time to record this podcast with us this morning. I'm, for one, looking very forward to hearing you speak at the Wealth Summit here come October 12th.
12th through the 14th.
12th through the 14th.
And you can get your tickets on life-benefits.com. You can go to the events. The Wealth Summit is there. You can also go to wealthsummit.net and get registered for that event. And we'll look forward to seeing you there.
Dr. Terryl, just one more question. If someone is out there listening today and they're kind of on the fence about, should I really take the time to come to Las Vegas and spend 3 days in this seminar that, can't I just learn this in a book, or can't I just watch a video? What would you tell them? What would you tell them?
Oh, wow. Number one, we learn. Okay, we'll use an example. What is more exciting, watching a football game on TV or being in the crowd?
No questions about that one.
And if there is anyone who's listening to this that's on that fence, we're not only going to discuss wealth in the sense of money and that, but we're also going to be learning about how to live a balanced life, which I believe is also part of our wealth. Mm-hmm. The other thing is we'll be associating with other like-minded individuals and families. You can't do that in a book. Yeah. And being chiropractors, we believe that life flows through us, above, down, inside, and out. And when you're in a group of people that are like-minded, the energy, the sum is greater than the individuals. And there's an energy that forms in that room. There's team building things that go on in that room that you can't do out of a book. And you get to share ideas sitting at the table as we go around in team building, that, again, you can't learn out of a book. The only way you're going to get to experience something like that is being there in person.
As we look around our first profession, the chiropractic profession, would you say that the most successful chiropractors you've seen belong to a group where they get mentored and associate with other like-minded individuals? Don't they succeed far greater than those who isolate themselves and try to do this alone?
Without a doubt. In 34 years, if we're hanging out in our own little office, stuck with our own ideas, we are now imprisoned by our own ideas because we're never going to see anything different. Mm-hmm. Yes, we can learn something from a book, but everybody has different experiences. Everyone has had different ups and downs, trials and tribulations, and wins. Mm-hmm. And those are best shared face-to-face, in person, eyes to eyes, toes to toes, heart to heart.
And that's what the Wealth Summit is all about, is bringing like-minded people together, people that want to be like-minded, and just rubbing shoulders and having a meal together and all those kind of things that just cultivate good ideas, positive attitudes, and winning philosophies. And so, although this is our last 3-day Wealth Summit, we've done 7 of them now, we're going to be doing something else, and we're going to be announcing what that else is at the Wealth Summit as well.
That's right. It's going to be exciting, and it's already been in the planning stages for it, and I have to tell all of you listening that it will be exciting.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes.
So, again, Dr. Wolfswinkel, thank you so much for being with us this morning, and we're looking forward to not only seeing you again, but getting to listen to your presentation as well.
That's right.
And thank you very much, gentlemen, and I really appreciate this opportunity. Have a great day.
All right, you too. We'll be back here next week on Wealth Talks, where we talk about solutions, money, and other things that create wealth in your life. Have a great week.